Welcome to True Echo, where real stories echo louder than fiction. Today's powerful narrative takes us to a quiet southern diner, where two black veterans sat down for breakfast, and ended up schooling a deputy in front of an entire town. This isn't just a story about injustice, it's about respect, resilience, and the moment when silence breaks and truth rises. Stay with us to the end, because what started over eggs and coffee became a national wake-up call. The bell above the door jingled like it always did. Same squeaky hinge, same chipped paint on the frame. Millie's diner hadn't changed in decades, not in decor, not in heart. It stood like a stubborn landmark off Highway 41 in Clarksville, Tennessee, tucked between a bait shop and a faded Baptist church. Inside, the air smelled of bacon grease and brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead. It was the kind of place where time moved slow and stories lived forever in the seams of cracked booths and laminated menus. Darnell Hughes pushed open the door just after 9 a.m. tall, broad-shouldered, his gait was heavy, a result of a knee that never healed right after Desert Storm. His army jacket hung loose over a gray sweatshirt, and a cap with "Veteran" stitched in fading gold thread sat snug over his shaved head. He paused just inside the doorway, letting the warmth hit his face. This place was home in a way few places could be. "Thought you were gonna stand me up," a voice called from the corner booth. Andre Wallace didn't even look up from his phone, fingers swiping through photos of his grandson. Wiry, quick-eyed, and still somehow looking 20 years younger than his age, Andre was the kind of man who laughed fast and fought faster. A former Marine medic, he had stories that could hush a bar full of drunks, and none of them ever started with, "Once upon a time." Darnell chuckled as he made his way to the booth. "You know I don't move fast unless someone's shooting." They bumped fists and settled in, the way old friends do, not out of habit, but out of something deeper. They didn't talk about glory or medals. They talked about knees that ached in the rain, VA appointments rescheduled again, and that time in Baghdad when Andre stitched up a guy using floss and hope. Jolene, the longtime waitress, came by with a pot of coffee and a kind smile. "Y'all want the usual?" "Keep it coming," Darnell said, raising his mug. "We ain't going nowhere." He shouldn't have said that. Because 5 minutes later, the air changed. The door opened again. No jingle this time, just the sharp clap of boots on tile and a presence that didn't belong. Deputy Kyle Renshaw walked in like he was looking for trouble. Late 30s, buzz-cut, broad-chested in a way that suggested more gym than fieldwork. His eyes scanned the room, narrowed like he was reading a threat into the wallpaper. His hand hovered too close to his belt. He walked straight to the booth. Didn't speak. Didn't ask. Just stood there with a jaw so tight it looked like he was chewing rocks. "You gentlemen got IDs on you?" he asked. No hello. No introduction. Just the demand, like they were gatecrashers at their own breakfast. Andre blinked. "Excuse me. I got a call about 2 suspicious men loitering outside the diner. I need to confirm who you are." Darnell's body didn't move, but something behind his eyes did. A flicker of something old. Something tired. "We've been sitting here," he said. "Eating breakfast. That's the issue." Jolene hesitated with the coffee pot mid-pour. "Deputy, they're regulars. Been coming here longer than you've been with the force." Renshaw ignored her. Eyes still locked on the 2 men. Andre leaned back. "You sure you're in the right place?" The diner went silent. The kind of silence that creeps up when everyone knows something just turned wrong. Forks paused mid-air. Heads turned. "I need your IDs," Renshaw repeated, his tone sharper now. "Why?" Andre said. "Are we being detained?" The question dropped like a hammer. Jolene froze behind the counter. A young woman at the bar, Bianca Ramirez, visiting from out of town, reached quietly for her phone. Earlier she'd been filming TikToks with her pancakes. Now, the camera was on again. This time, it was real. Darnell exhaled. Look, officer. I'm retired Army. Andre here's a Marine. We've been coming here for years. We're not loitering. We're catching up. You got a problem showing ID? Renshaw asked, jaw clenched tighter now. Andre pushed his plate aside. I got a problem being singled out. You didn't talk to anyone else in here. You walked straight to us. Around them, eyes darted. Construction workers, older farmers, couples in fleece jackets, all watching, none speaking. One man stood up. An older farmer in a John Deere cap. These fellas bothering you? He asked the deputy. His tone wasn't accusatory, it was incredulous. They're not bothering anyone, Jolene snapped, voice rising now. They're customers. They're vets. You're the only one causing a stir. Renshaw's hand dropped to his radio. Andre said it louder this time. We didn't do anything wrong. Darnell reached slowly into his coat. His fingers were deliberate, a veteran's motion, practiced and calm. He pulled out his ID and laid it on the table. Andre followed, sliding his own across the laminate surface. Since this is what qualifies as suspicious now, Andre muttered. Renshaw didn't touch them. Just stared. I'll need to call this in, he said. You do that, Darnell said, voice even. Call whoever you want. We're not going anywhere. And just as the deputy reached for his radio, the door opened again. Kyle. A voice barked from the doorway, sharp and commanding. All heads turned. In stepped Lieutenant Charles Drury, older, composed, the kind of man who didn't need to shout to be heard. His eyes scanned the room, took in the frozen scene, the body language, the tension. He walked straight up. Stand down, he said. Renshaw hesitated. I was responding to a call, he insisted. I know, Drury said. I listened to the playback. Someone called from a blocked number. Said two black men were standing outside looking out of place. No weapons. No threats. You escalated this. He turned to Darnell and Andre. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Wallace. I'm sorry. Andre leaned back, arms crossed. Guess we weren't invisible after all. Drury nodded at the IDs. You don't need to show me anything. I saw you both at the Memorial Day event. You read the names last year. Darnell gave a small nod. We remember. Drury's voice lowered. Kyle, you bypassed the staff. You didn't assess the room. You jumped straight to confrontation. That's a problem. Not just for you. For all of us. Bianca's phone kept recording. Comments flew in, fast and angry. And as the weight of the morning settled in, it became clear, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Darnell sat back in the booth, his fingers lightly tapping the table beside his military ID. Andre's jaw flexed, eyes fixed on the young deputy who was now shifting awkwardly beside his superior. The energy in Millie's diner had changed, again. From peaceful to hostile, from tense to alert. Now it simmered in that uneasy place where apology meets accountability. Lieutenant Drury glanced around the diner. He didn't need a speech. The room already understood. Ma'am, he said, turning to Jolene. Did these gentlemen cause any disturbance before Deputy Renshaw arrived? Jolene didn't hesitate. Only problem they caused was running me out of cinnamon rolls, she said, pouring another round of coffee without spilling a drop. The tension broke slightly with a few scattered chuckles. But Andre wasn't laughing. You know, I served 18 years, he said slowly, addressing no one in particular and yet everyone in the diner. Did 2 tours in Fallujah. Got patched up in field hospitals that weren't big enough to fit this diner. I didn't come home to get treated like a criminal over breakfast. Darnell spoke next, voice rough but steady. I bled for this country. I built homes in this town. And this morning, Some kid walks in and treats me like a threat just because I look like this. He tapped his chest. The words hit differently than a shout. They carried weight. Renshaw shifted again, his face flushed. I didn't mean. Andre cut him off. You meant exactly what you did. And you've probably done it before. The silence that followed was pierced only by Bianca's phone, still recording quietly from the counter. She whispered into it, they're still speaking calmly. Still dignified. I'm shaking and I'm not even in this. Lieutenant Drury nodded at the IDs. You can put those away, gentlemen. They were never required. Andre didn't move. You know that's the part that stings the most, right? That we have to carry proof of our worth like it's a backstage pass. Just to sit here. Eat pancakes. Bianca panned her camera to the corner booth. In the live stream comments, thousands of viewers typed variations of heartbreaking, disgraceful, and heroes. It was already going viral, even as Darnell and Andre tried to sip their coffee in peace. I'm going to recommend Deputy Renshaw be placed on temporary leave, Drury announced. We'll be reviewing this incident and determining the proper steps. And I'm deeply sorry this happened in our town. Andre glanced at Darnell, who gave a faint nod. Neither man thanked Drury. Not out of rudeness, but because they weren't here for apologies. They were here for breakfast. Jolene leaned over the counter. You know, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, last summer, Andre carried old Mr. DeWitt out to his car when he collapsed right there by the jukebox. Waited for the ambulance. The whole time. You think someone like that comes here to cause trouble? Drury looked at Renshaw. You need to learn the people in your town before you patrol it. A voice chimed in from another booth. Lieutenant, I think folks are tired of learning lessons after the damage is done. Everyone turned. It was Mr. Ferguson, the elderly man who'd served in Korea. He held his wife's hand tightly as he stood. They wear the same caps my boy does, he said. If you don't respect the person, at least respect the service. Renshaw had no reply. Outside, cars had started to slow in front of Millie's. Word was spreading. The diner had become a hot point, a symbol. Inside, a delivery man stood near the register, waiting to be rung up but clearly tuned into everything. His eyes met Andre's with a small, respectful nod. Bianca looked up from her stream. Over 50,000 views already, she whispered. Comments coming in from everywhere. Andre finally leaned back. Let it roll. If they weren't here to hear it, maybe they'll watch it now. Darnell picked up his coffee, blew on it softly, and took a long sip. Every few years, we end up telling this story again. Just a different place. Different badge. Same script. But the more folks hear it, Andre added, maybe one day it doesn't get rewritten. At that moment, Jolene brought over 2 warm cinnamon rolls. On the house, she said gently. And if anyone in this town has a problem with it, they can come talk to me. The soft clink of plates hitting the table was the only sound for a few seconds. Outside the window, Renshaw paced near his cruiser. Drury stood beside him, talking low, with slow hand gestures and the stern face of a man delivering a hard lesson. The cameras didn't follow them. The story was inside now. Andre stared down at his cinnamon roll. You think they're gonna spin this later? Make us look angry? Probably, Darnell replied. But they got the footage. They got the truth. Bianca's phone buzzed again. A reporter from WKO News out of Nashville had messaged her, "Can we do a live interview in 10 minutes? Please don't leave the diner." She looked at Darnell. "They want to talk to you." On air. He raised an eyebrow. "We didn't ask to be the face of this." Andre smirked. "But we're already in the frame." Bianca bit her lip, waiting. "I can tell them no." Darnell considered that. Then nodded. "Tell them we'll talk." But we speak for ourselves. As Bianca responded, Andre leaned forward. We're not just telling our story. We're telling every story that never got heard. That never got filmed. That got buried. Darnell added, and maybe this time, people actually listen. Outside, the news van was already pulling into the lot. The moment the news van's tires crunched into Millie's parking lot gravel, it felt like the entire diner took a collective breath. Inside, heads turned toward the windows. Jolene quietly straightened her apron. Bianca wiped her phone screen, glancing at Andre and Darnell, who hadn't moved from their booth, hadn't touched their cinnamon rolls either. The reporter stepped out first, tall, neatly dressed, blazer sharp enough to cut glass. Denise Larkin, from WKO News. She walked with purpose, but not arrogance. Her eyes scanned the scene inside, then softened just slightly when she saw Bianca waiting at the counter. You're the one who recorded the footage? Denise asked, extending her hand. Bianca nodded. Yes, ma'am. But the story's over there. She gestured to the booth in the corner. Denise turned to the cameraman. We're live in 90 seconds. Set up there. Gentle pan. No tight zooms. Respect the space. She approached the table slowly. Sergeant Hughes. Mr. Wallace. My name's Denise Larkin with WKO News out of Nashville. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us. Darnell nodded slightly. Didn't agree to a speech. Just agreed to speak. Andre leaned back, crossing his arms. We'll talk. But no edits. No cutting out the parts that make people uncomfortable. Denise's lips twitched, not quite a smile. I wouldn't dare. And we'll live in 3, 2. The red light on the camera blinked to life. Denise turned to the lens. We're reporting live from Millie's Diner in Clarksville, Tennessee, where a confrontation between two black military veterans and a sheriff's deputy has gone viral. With me now are Sergeant Darnell Hughes, U.S. Army retired, and former Marine Corps medic Andre Wallace. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Andre gave a single nod. Wish we were here for different reasons. Can you walk us through what happened this morning? She asked. Darnell kept his eyes on the camera. We came here for breakfast. Like we've done many times before. Someone made a call saying we looked suspicious. And within minutes, we were being asked for ID. No hello. No context. Just judgment. Do you believe it was racially motivated? Andre didn't flinch. It wasn't just racially motivated, it was racially assumed. There's no belief involved when a man walks past every other table and comes straight to you with his hand on his belt. That's not instinct. That's bias. Denise paused, letting the moment breathe. Was there ever a point where you felt unsafe? Darnell tapped the edge of his coffee mug. We've both been in combat zones. We know what real danger feels like. But what made this different, was knowing we could have said one wrong word, and it wouldn't matter how many years we served. Bianca filmed from behind the crew. Her live stream audience had swelled to over 100,000. Comments scrolled faster than her eyes could follow. This is why we need body cams. Share this now. They're speaking for everyone who never got to speak at all. As Denise prepared her next question, the diner door swung open again. Sheriff Nolan Keene stepped inside. The crowd quieted. No entourage. No camera crew. Just a man in a worn sheriff's uniform and boots that had clearly seen more dirt roads than press conferences. His face was drawn, but he walked with the steady weight of someone who knew this moment had to be handled right. Denise caught his eye and gave the cameraman a subtle nod. Sheriff Keene has just entered the diner. Sheriff, would you like to make a statement? Keene didn't hesitate. He stepped in front of the camera, facing Andre and Darnell more than the audience. I saw the footage, he began. And I'm here to say, on record, that what happened this morning should never have happened. You deserved better. Not just because of your service. But because you're citizens. Because you're human beings. The room stilled. Even the fry cook paused mid-flip on the grill. I've placed Deputy Renshaw on administrative leave, Keene continued. There will be a full review, not just of his conduct, but of how we train, how we respond, and how we hold ourselves accountable. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a symptom of a bigger problem. He reached into his shirt pocket and unfolded a letter. I wrote this on the drive over. It's a formal apology from my office, one I wanted to deliver by hand. He placed the letter gently on the table between the two veterans. André stared at it for a long moment. Words matter, he said. But change matters more. Keene nodded. Then help us change it. Help us do better. Darnell raised an eyebrow. You offering us a job? I'm offering you a seat at the table, Keene said. Talk to our academy class. Help us write better policy. Be part of the fix. Before either man could answer, Jolene slid 2 fresh mugs of coffee onto the table. Y'all are already doing more for this town than most folks with badges, she said. Behind her, Denise glanced at her producer. Let's cut to the anchor for now, she whispered. The camera light clicked off. André turned to Keene. I'll think about it. But I'm not sugarcoating anything if I do. I wouldn't ask you to, Keene replied. And just so you know, there's a town hall next week. I'd like you both there. I'll make sure everyone listens. Keene left quietly, but not before nodding to every face in the diner, like a man not campaigning, but reflecting. As the door swung shut, André let out a slow breath. You believe him? Darnell didn't answer right away. Then, I believe he wants to believe himself. That's a start. Jolene placed a bag on the table. 2 coffees to go. And a slice of pecan pie. Courtesy of a neighbor who said her husband would have wanted y'all to have it. André peered inside the bag. Man, we came for bacon and eggs. Darnell smiled faintly. And left with a reckoning. Outside, the sound of clapping tires on gravel faded as the news van pulled away from Millie's parking lot. Inside, the atmosphere settled like cooling coffee, still warm, but steady now. The adrenaline had quieted. The confrontation was over. But the consequences were just beginning to ripple outward. Bianca sat at the counter with her phone still buzzing non-stop. Notifications popped in like popcorn, her screen filled with likes, messages, even mentions from journalists, civil rights groups, and random viewers who had never even heard of Clarksville before today. Across the diner, André and Darnell sat at their corner booth, untouched cinnamon rolls growing cold on their plates, a folded apology letter resting between their coffee mugs. The American flag case from Marcia, the antique shop owner, still sat to the side, its fabric corners barely visible from the crack in the flap. You think that sheriff meant all of it? André asked, stirring the last of his coffee. Darnell leaned back in the booth, eyes drifting toward the window. I think he meant it standing in here. Whether it still matters when no one's watching, we'll see. Bianca turned in her seat. The internet's still watching, she said, quietly but firmly. Over 300,000 views. Hashtags are trending. Even some veteran groups picked it up. One of them said they're writing a formal letter to your sheriff's office. André exhaled slowly. All that from a breakfast plate. Darnell smirked. Was a good biscuit though. They both laughed, tired laughter, but real. Just then, the door opened again. Another deputy entered, this one moving slower, more cautious. He wasn't in full uniform, just a department logo tee and jeans. Mid-40s, shaved head, salt in his beard. He looked like someone who had once loved his job, but didn't always love what came with it. He stopped short when he saw the booth. Then walked over with visible effort. Gentlemen, he said, clearing his throat. I'm Deputy Russell Vega. I work shifts with Renshaw sometimes. I saw the video. I wanted to come in person. Andre arched an eyebrow. To say what exactly? Vega didn't flinch. That I'm sorry. And that what happened this morning doesn't speak for all of us. I don't expect you to believe me. Just wanted you to hear it from someone wearing the same badge. Darnell studied him for a moment, then extended a hand. Words are easy. Action is hard. But this right here. You didn't have to walk in here. That counts. Vega shook his hand. I'll back it up. Every day. That's the only way trust gets rebuilt, right? Andre nodded. Damn right. As Vega stepped away, Jolene placed a small paper bag on the table. Your pie's in there, she said. And some extra napkins. I don't care how viral you go, nobody leaves here without dessert. Just as she walked off, Miles, the UPS driver from earlier, approached cautiously from the counter. I'm off break, he said, voice low. But I just wanted to say, thank you. For how y'all handled that. I saw the last half of it from outside. Almost didn't come in. Why? Andre asked. Miles hesitated. Didn't want to be next. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Honest. You're not alone, Darnell finally said. But that's the problem. Too many of us know this script before it even starts. Yeah, Miles muttered. And we all got a line memorized, keep your head down. Don't give them a reason. But sometimes, even silence ain't enough. Bianca had returned to filming quietly again. This wasn't about the views anymore, it was about capturing something unfiltered. Something real. Moments later, the diner door swung open and a teenage boy walked in, no older than 17, wearing a high school hoodie and holding a notebook. Excuse me, he said, approaching the booth. My name's Terrence. I go to Clarksville High. I saw the live stream. Can I write about this for the school paper? Andre looked at Darnell, who gave a tiny shrug. You want to tell the truth? He asked the boy. Yes, sir. Then write, Darnell said. And don't skip the ugly parts. That's what people always try to do. Terrence beamed like he'd just been handed the keys to a legacy. Thank you, he said, scribbling fast notes before turning to Bianca. Can I get a copy of your footage too? Already uploading to a public archive, she replied. And backing up to the cloud. Just in case someone tries to take it down. Jolene stepped in again, towel over her shoulder. You know, I've worked in this diner for over 2 decades. First time I've ever seen a sheriff apologize in here. Not just to anybody. But to somebody who earned more stripes than that deputy's seen sunrises. You think folks in this town will talk about this? Andre asked. Jolene looked out the window. 2 women stood near the edge of the parking lot, watching the diner quietly, phones in hand. One of them was crying. They already are, she replied. Bianca's phone buzzed again, another call. She glanced at the name and frowned. News producer from CNN. They want a clip. Darnell shook his head. This thing's spreading too fast. Andre nodded. And it's not about us anymore. It's about what we represent. And what's that? Bianca asked. Andre looked straight at her. That calm doesn't mean weak. That dignity isn't submission. That our skin doesn't cancel our service. And that someday, hopefully, this won't be news. It'll just be history. Bianca was silent for a long time before whispering, I'll make sure it's told right. Outside, the sky had cleared. Sunlight beamed down through parting clouds, casting long shadows through the window panes of Millie's. Inside, The flag case sat between two untouched cinnamon rolls, a crumpled letter of apology, and two military ID cards laid gently side by side. By the time the lunch crowd would have usually started rolling in, Millie's diner was still stuck in a different kind of moment, not quite breakfast, not yet normal. The kitchen clanged on, orders were scribbled down, but most of the seats were filled by quiet watchers, not hungry patrons. Outside, the parking lot hadn't emptied. If anything, the crowd was growing. Not a mob. Not a protest. Just people, some with signs reading things like "Respect Veterans" and "Silence Enables Injustice." Others simply stood there, arms crossed, unsure if they were witnessing a moment in history or just a blip in a never-ending cycle. Inside, Darnell and Andre were still in the same booth, their cinnamon rolls untouched but the coffee cups now cold. Terrence, the high school kid, sat two booths over, furiously scribbling notes in his notebook. Bianca fielded calls she never imagined she'd get in her life, now dodging questions from producers like a political press agent. And then the door opened again. Not a camera. Not another deputy. A man in his 70s stepped in, tall, lean, with sharp features and eyes that looked like they'd watched generations shift and shuffle. He wore a battered baseball cap with the faded insignia of the U.S. Army's 2nd Infantry Division and walked like his joints had forgotten what rest felt like. He said nothing as he moved toward Darnell and Andre's booth. Everyone watched. He stopped beside their table and reached into his coat. From inside, he pulled a small, square military patch. Frayed, edges curled, color faded to a soft gray-blue. He set it down on the table, right next to the apology letter. "I earned that in Korea," he said, voice like gravel and smoke. "Don't say much. Never liked speeches. But I saw what that boy in uniform did to you today. And I didn't like it." Darnell looked down at the patch, then back up at the man. "Thank you." The old man nodded. "You earned that breakfast. And a hell of a lot more." Then he turned, walked back to a booth near the window, and sat down alone, as if nothing monumental had just happened. Andre shook his head slowly. "Every time I think this town's forgotten what it means to stand with someone, someone proves me wrong." Bianca leaned in, whispering. "This is going to be part of the legacy now, you know. The video, the interview, everything. It's not just trending, it's become a story." Darnell gave a small, tired smile. "We never wanted to be symbols. We just wanted to be left alone with our eggs and coffee." Andre added, "But maybe that's exactly why people are listening. Because we weren't looking for a moment. The moment found us." Suddenly, the TV mounted above the counter switched to a breaking news alert. The screen showed aerial shots of Millie's diner, clips from Bianca's video, and a cheer-in that read, "Deputy faces suspension after veterans profiled in Tennessee diner." The camera cut to the sheriff's office, where Sheriff Nolan Keene was holding a press conference. He stood at a podium, flanked by two deputies, and addressed a room full of reporters. "I've reviewed the footage," he said, live on the screen. "And I've spoken personally to the individuals involved. Deputy Renshaw has been placed on indefinite administrative leave, pending a full investigation. But let me be clear, this is not just about one officer. This is about a system that must evolve." The diner murmured with soft approval. Keene continued. "We are establishing a community advisory panel. And I've asked Mr. Hughes and Mr. Wallace to consider joining that panel. They are not obligated to say yes. But their insight, service, and calm under pressure are exactly what our department needs more of." Andre looked at Darnell. Darnell blinked at the screen. "He actually said our names." Bianca whispered, "That's national TV. CNN just picked it up. ABC too." The TV screen cut to an anchor summarizing the situation: two black veterans wrongfully approached in a local diner by a sheriff's deputy. Footage shows no signs of threat or disruption. The incident has sparked a conversation about policing, race, and accountability in rural America. Andre turned away from the screen. I'm not ready to be anyone's poster boy. You don't have to be, Darnell replied. You just have to be honest. And tired, Andre muttered. Which I already am. The door opened again, and this time it was Marcia, the antique store owner who'd apologized earlier. She walked in with something clutched tightly in her arms, a folded, glass-covered case. She approached the booth and opened it gently, revealing a perfectly folded American flag. The kind given at military funerals. My dad served in Vietnam, she said, voice cracking. Didn't trust most people. But when he died, he left me this. I always said I'd give it to someone who reminded me of him. Someone who didn't just wear the uniform, but honored it. You both remind me of him. Darnell stood slowly, hands respectful. Ma'am, we can't accept that. You can, Marcia insisted, eyes glassy. Because he would have wanted it with someone who understands what it costs. Andre stood beside him. They took the flag together, as if handling a sacred object, which, in many ways, they were. Thank you, Andre said. We'll honor it. Behind the counter, Jolene wiped her eyes quickly. Okay, if y'all keep bringing gifts like that, I'm gonna have to rename this place to Memorial Diner. Everyone chuckled, even if the moment still sat heavy in the air. As Andre and Darnell sat back down, the booth table looked different now, cinnamon rolls, coffee mugs, a military patch, a folded flag, and 2 ID cards. Symbols. Scars. History. All in one quiet corner of a diner. Darnell leaned in. You ever think something this small could become something that big? Andre looked at the door, where another customer paused before entering, unsure of what they were walking into. It's not the size of the diner, he said. It's the size of the truth inside it. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast a soft golden glow over Millie's diner, turning the dust in the air into shimmering flecks. The crowd had grown quieter, but no less committed. Some still held signs. Some simply stood with folded arms, eyes trained on the front door like something sacred had happened inside, and maybe it had. Inside, Andre and Darnell sat quietly, the symbols of the day laid bare in front of them, a folded flag, a worn military patch, a formal letter of apology, and 2 ID cards. Each item told a piece of the story. Together, they told something more, a truth that went deeper than the confrontation that started it all. You know, Andre said, picking up the military patch, rubbing the edge between his fingers, when I was 19, I thought wearing a uniform would mean I'd never be questioned again. I thought it would buy me peace. Darnell nodded slowly, staring at the folded flag. I thought it meant I was part of something permanent. Something honorable. I didn't know I'd come home to be looked at like a stranger. Just then, Bianca approached with her phone tucked into her back pocket. You're not gonna believe this, she said, pulling up the screen. The video hit over 2 million views in under 5 hours. Your names are trending. Hashtags, tributes, even celebrities reposting it. There's talk of a town hall turning into a regional forum. Andre blinked. We were just trying to eat breakfast. Bianca gave a half smile. That's why it matters. You weren't yelling. You weren't violent. You weren't anything but yourselves. And that was enough for the world to see the truth. The door opened once more, and in walked a man no one expected. Reverend Elijah Martin, pastor of the oldest church in Clarksville, and someone whose voice carried weight beyond just sermons. He wore a charcoal gray suit and carried a leather-bound journal. His presence brought a hush over the room. He walked straight to the booth. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said softly. Darnell stood and extended his hand. Not at all, Reverend. Martin shook both their hands, then sat across from them like he had been invited to testify in court. I watched the footage. I watched it twice. Then I prayed. Then I came here. Andre leaned in, curious. And what made you show up? Because, Martin said, tapping his fingers lightly on the table, what happened here this morning wasn't just about profiling. It was about proof. Proof that calm can be powerful. That standing your ground doesn't have to come with fists. That dignity still has weight. He opened his journal and slid a piece of paper across the table. This is the outline of a town-wide community program I've been developing for the last year. It's called, Speak First, Assume Last. I didn't have a catalyst to launch it. Until today. Darnell looked at the paper. You want us to be part of it? Martin nodded. More than that. I want you to lead a forum. I want to hear your stories in front of people who've never had to live them. Andre sat back. You realize what you're asking, right? You're asking us to relive it. To keep being examples. No, Martin said gently. I'm asking you to be educators. You're already examples, whether you want to be or not. For a long beat, neither man spoke. Then Darnell sighed. You know what makes this different? He asked the Reverend. Most times, when something like this happens, people either look away or argue about context. This time, they listened. And they're still listening, Martin said. But the question is, what are you going to say next? Andre glanced at the growing stack of gestures on the table, flag, patch, letter, pie. Then at Bianca, who stood quietly near the booth, ready to film again if needed. He smiled faintly. I guess if we've come this far, we might as well finish the conversation. Bianca perked up. Does that mean you'll do an interview with the regional station? They just asked. Darnell nodded. If we do, we speak on our terms. Of course, Bianca said. Unedited. Unfiltered. Just then, the door creaked again, and in walked Deputy Renshaw. The diner fell silent. He wasn't in uniform this time. Just jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a face that looked like it had been run through a week of reckoning. He didn't approach the booth right away. He paused near the counter, waiting. Watching. It was Jolene who broke the stillness. You gonna stand there, or you gonna say what you came to say? Renshaw nodded once, then made his way to the booth, his hands at his sides, eyes never leaving the table. I'm not here to justify anything, he said quietly. I'm not here for forgiveness, either. I just wanted to look you in the eye and say. I was wrong. Andre didn't blink. Yes. You were. Renshaw's jaw clenched, but he nodded again. I saw a threat when I should have seen two men. Two veterans. Two human beings. You didn't see us at all, Darnell said, voice even. You saw your own assumptions. That's worse. Renshaw's eyes dropped. I've been told I may lose my badge. That's fair. But even if I keep it, I'm not going to pretend I deserve it without doing the work. He looked at Reverend Martin. I want to be part of that program. If you'll let me. The Reverend nodded slowly. That's not up to me. That's up to them. Andre stared at the young man for a long moment. Then said, we'll think about it. But if you want to be part of this, it starts with silence. Listening. Not leading. Renshaw didn't argue. I understand. He turned to leave. Deputy, Darnell called after him. Renshaw stopped. Next time you walk into a diner, start with a question. Not a command. Yes, sir. He left without another word. Outside, the sun was sinking low. Long shadows stretched across the parking lot, where the crowd had now thinned to clusters. Conversations were softer, faces reflective. Inside, Jolene brought over 2 warm to-go cups and a fresh slice of peach cobbler. Because you know I'm not letting you walk out of here empty-handed, she said, setting them down. Andre chuckled. You keep feeding us like this, and we're going to have to open a veterans corner. You already did, she said. We just didn't have a name for it. As she walked away, Bianca hit record one last time. Say anything you want, she said, lifting her phone. Darnell looked into the lens. If you've ever been silent because you thought it wasn't your business, it is. If you've ever looked away because it didn't happen to you, it still does. And if you've ever wondered whether calm resistance works, this morning is your answer. Andre added, we didn't shout. We didn't fight. But we didn't back down, either. If this world's going to change, it won't be because of noise. It'll be because of truth. And people willing to say it, even over coffee. Bianca lowered her phone. I think that's the ending, she whispered. Darnell smiled. No. That's just where the real work starts. The sun had begun to dip behind the treetops by the time Andre and Darnell stepped out of Millie's diner. The sky glowed in soft oranges and pale blues, casting long shadows that stretched like memories across the parking lot. The diner's neon sign buzzed faintly overhead, its flickering open, still burning despite the day's emotional weight. Outside, fewer people lingered now, but the silence in the air wasn't emptiness. It was reflection. Reverence. Respect. Bianca followed the men out, carrying her tripod and phone like a second spine. She didn't speak right away. She didn't need to. The camera had caught everything worth hearing. This last part, this final walk to their cars, felt sacred. Behind them, Millie's still glowed warmly. Inside, Jolene wiped down the booths slowly, as if preserving a sacred place. Reverend Martin remained at a corner table, already sketching new outlines for his community forum. And Terence, the high school journalist, sat alone at the counter, typing furiously like he couldn't afford to forget a single word. Andre stopped beside his old pickup truck and leaned against the door. You know what today felt like? He asked, eyes on the horizon. Darnell glanced over. What? Like standing watch again. Only this time, instead of bullets, we were dodging ignorance. And instead of armor, we had truth. Darnell chuckled. Truth and cinnamon rolls. Man, don't knock the cinnamon, Andre said. It kept me from flipping the damn table. They shared a quiet laugh, the kind you earn, not just express. The kind that comes from surviving something together. Bianca stepped forward, her phone still in hand. The last clip hit 3 million views, she said. WKO just called again. Said the sheriff's public apology is making national waves. Yeah. Andre said, not looking away from the setting sun. Let's just hope the waves don't stop when the headlines fade. Bianca paused. Then asked softly, do you regret it? Not backing down. Darnell didn't hesitate. Never. You don't regret standing up for your dignity. You regret all the times you didn't. Andre added, I just wish we didn't have to keep teaching the same damn lesson every generation. Bianca stepped forward and hugged them both, not a performative hug, not for the stream. Just a human one. Then she stepped back and wiped her eyes. From across the street, a boy on a bicycle coasted by. Same kid from earlier. He didn't stop, but he looked directly at Darnell and Andre. This time, he lifted a hand, not in confusion, but in acknowledgement. Andre waved back. You think he'll remember this day? Bianca asked. He will, Darnell replied. If his parents talk to him. If his school doesn't erase it. If his heart stays open. Andre pulled something from his pocket, the folded apology letter from the sheriff, and stared at it. You think this means anything? He asked. Darnell took a long breath. It means someone saw. Someone learned. And maybe someone changed. That's all you can ask for sometimes. Just then, the UPS driver, Miles, walked by in his brown uniform, his shift just ending. He stopped beside them, holding his phone. I printed out what I saw today, he said. That old man giving you the patch. The flag. The pie. Even that kid wanting to write your story. He held up a picture he'd printed, one Bianca had posted. You don't know me. But I've never felt prouder just standing nearby. Y'all didn't raise your voices. You raised the bar. He nodded and walked on, leaving them with that thought. Back inside Millie's, Reverend Martin stood and tapped the window from inside. He pointed to the folded flag still resting on the booth table and gave them a thumbs up. Darnell smiled. We'd better grab that before Jolene gives it to the next veteran. Andre snorted. She better not. I'm attached to that cobbler in the bag too. They walked back inside briefly. The bell jingled softly behind them, no longer sharp or ominous. It just felt familiar. Home. Jolene was waiting. She held out the flag, wrapped again in its protective case. Y'all forgot your blessings, she said with a smirk. Darnell took it gently, like it might break if handled wrong. No, ma'am. Just making sure it cooled off. Jolene leaned on the counter. You know something? I've seen a lot of things in this diner. Proposals. Fights. Farewells. Even a birth once, don't ask. But what I saw today. She paused, her voice growing serious. Today, this place became something else. It became a mirror. Showed us what we are, and what we could be. Andre touched the brim of his cap. We only held the mirror. The town decided what it saw. Outside again, the parking lot was almost empty. The camera crews gone. The crowd dispersed. Just the sound of a breeze brushing through trees and the occasional bird cutting across the fading sky. Darnell and Andre climbed into their separate trucks. You headed straight home? Andre asked. Darnell nodded. Yeah. Might even call my daughter. She texted. Said she saw the video and cried. Said she was proud. Andre exhaled. Same. Got a message from my grandson's school. Said the principal showed it during a staff meeting. Look at us, Darnell said. Woke up just wanting bacon and eggs. Now we're trending. Andre smiled. We didn't trend. We testified. Their engines hummed to life, and as they pulled out of the parking lot, Bianca remained behind, staring at the window of the diner. She uploaded her final video, captioned simply. 2 black veterans asked for breakfast. The world asked for justice. In a world where dignity is too often ignored and justice delayed, sometimes the most powerful moments come not from anger, but from restraint. From courage wrapped in calm. From service that never ends. Andre and Darnell didn't plan to become a symbol. They only asked for respect. And through their quiet strength, they became something far greater, a reminder that silence isn't peace, and presence is its own kind of protest. We didn't shout. We didn't fight. But we didn't back down either. Let this story echo. If it moved you, if it made you think, if you believe dignity should never be questioned, share this. Let it spark conversations where silence used to live. Subscribe to True Echo for more stories that reveal the truth behind the noise, and drop a comment below. What would you have done if you were sitting in that diner? Your voice matters. Keep the conversation going.